And the best example of this comes from the Sith Lord of the administration, Steve Miller. Now, before we get into Steve Miller, I'm about to play a lot of Steve Miller. Before we do this, would you like to say anything about the Supreme Court ruling?
No, I can't wait. I just was not expecting Sith Lord.
Okay, all right. I hate to do this to you all. We are about to watch a lot of Steve Miller. We have to. I'm sorry. But we will stop frequently for debunking breaks because no one should listen to 3 straight minutes of uninterrupted Miller. This was him outlining what was about to become the administration's official position.
Your argument is that you don't have to bring him back home, but will you?
So I want to correct, I hate to do it, Bill, but I got to correct you on every single thing that you said because it was all wrong. First, we won the Supreme Court case, clearly, 9-0.
Isn't that classic Steve Miller style? Everything you said was all wrong. He should be a commenter. No, you didn't win 9-0, Steve. You didn't. I'm going to do you back to you. No, you're all wrong. The Supreme Court accepted literally everything the district court judge ordered, except they removed the deadline and they asked her to clarify what she meant by the word effectuate.
I need to not drink water before watching these clips. I almost spat all over the microphone.
It's pretty funny. Well, there's 3 minutes of him. Don't worry. He's going to get better and better. Let's go next one.
A district court judge said unconscionably that the president and his administration have to go into El Salvador and extradite one of their citizens, an El Salvadorian citizen, so that would be kidnapping, that we have to kidnap an El Salvadorian citizen against the will of his government and fly him back to America, which would be an unimaginable act and an invasion of El Salvador's sovereignty.
Okay, these are all in a row, by the way. This was a humdinger of an answer from Steve Miller. Where the hell did you get this kidnapping thing from? The district court did not say that they had to kidnap Garcia. She said the administration should facilitate and effectuate the return of Garcia to the United States. There's a lot of ways short of kidnapping that you can facilitate and effectuate the return of a human being. Like, for one, you could ask him to be returned. How about that? You could ask that they return him. I mean, that's just off the top of my head. I know that's not as likely as kidnapping him, but maybe you can just put in a phone call, just as a starting point. That's something the administration has still not done. There'll be justifications for not asking El Salvador soon. Don't worry, I'll get to those justifications. But suffice to say, Miller is wildly mischaracterizing the district court's order. Let's go on.
So we appealed to the Supreme Court, and it said clearly, no district court can compel the president to exercise his Article II foreign powers in any way whatsoever.
They absolutely did not say that. Firstly, let me quote the court. The order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been properly sent to El Salvador. Did you get that? It properly requires. So they said that you can do that and that the district court was right in doing that. Secondly, as I just noted, they reminded Zinnes to show due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs. They didn't say the deference was total, which means that there are circumstances in where the court can have a say in foreign affairs, potentially. As I also noted, there are many aspects of this case that have nothing to do with foreign affairs, and I will be getting to them as well. Miller has disappeared all of those aspects and made this case 100% about foreign affairs, which the Supreme Court did not do. Let's move on.
DOJ called me after that Supreme Court ruling, and they said, this is amazing. We won this case 9-0. We are in excellent standing here. So this has been portrayed wrong for 72 hours in the media.
Even if somehow you interpreted the majority ruling the way that Miller has, which is completely wrong, it would be bullshit to call that interpretation 9-0 because he's completely ignoring Sotomayor's concurrence, which was quite a concurrence. This was signed on by 3 Liberals on the court. Allow me to read large parts of it. They wrote, I would have declined to intervene in this litigation and denied the application in full. That's quite conclusive, isn't it, Steve Miller? And their logic was unambiguously correct. The only argument the government offers in support of its request that the United States courts cannot grant relief once a deportee crosses the border is plainly wrong. The government's argument, moreover, implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including US citizens, without legal consequence, so long as it does so before a court can intervene. That is just true. As in, what she's saying is that's what their logic suggests. Nevertheless, they go on, I agree with the court's order that the proper remedy is to provide Abrego Garcia with all the process to which he would have been entitled had he not been unlawfully removed to El Salvador. That means the government must comply with its obligation to provide Abrego Garcia with due process of law, including notice and opportunity to be heard in any future proceedings. It must also comply with its obligations under the Convention Against Torture. Federal law governing detention and removals of immigrants continues, of course, to be binding as well, requiring a warrant before a non-citizen may be arrested and detained pending a decision on removal. See also, in order to revoke conditional release, the government must provide adequate notice and promptly arrange an initial informal interview to afford the alien an opportunity to respond to the reasons for the revocation stated in the notification. Now, does that sound to you like the three Liberals agree that the government can just do whatever they want, like Miller is suggesting?
No.
No. Let's continue.
They said the most a court could ever compel you to do would be to facilitate return, which would basically mean if El Salvador voluntarily sends him back, we wouldn't block him at the airport. We would put him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either back to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court said that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay,
Secondly,
Firstly, like I said, the Supreme Court did not say the most they could do was facilitate. They actually suggested that effectuate might be fine as well, depending on Judge Zinnes's definition of effectuate. But let's pretend they did just say facilitate, nothing else. What does facilitate mean? Miller is citing the same definition as the DOJ advanced to the district court judge a few days later. They said facilitate means taking all available steps to remove any domestic obstacles that would otherwise impede the alien's ability to return here. Pam Bondi said similar kind of thing to Bickelay.
If they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
There we go. She sees facilitators assuming he wants to give him back. Yeah, we'll give a plane. That's our facilitation. Judge Zinnes said in her next order after that, quote, defendants take all available steps to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia to the United States as soon as possible. So she defined it not as domestic, but what is available. She left it open to the administration to determine what is available. That's her way of showing deference to their ability to prosecute foreign policy. I'm sure it's going to be a key issue going into the next Supreme Court, but I've got more to say about this coming as well. Let's just go back to Steve Miller again. We haven't forgotten him.
the misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay,
Secondly,
I appreciate
he was
the
not, no, Bill, it's important. He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador.
Okay, so do you still
He's
believe
an illegal
he is a
alien
member of
from
MS?
El Salvador. Hold on, this is important. In 2019, he was ordered deported. He has a final removal order from the United States. These are things that no one disputes. Where is he from? El Salvador. Where is he a resident and citizen of? El Salvador. Is he here illegally? Yes. Does he have a deportation order? Yes. A DOJ lawyer who has since been relieved of duty, a saboteur, a Democrat, put into a filing incorrectly that this was a mistaken removal. It was not. This was the right person sent to the right place.
What he's referring to there, he said that he was a resident of El Salvador. No, he's actually a 14-year resident of the United States. Yes, he's an illegal immigrant, and that gives him, but he's still a resident, which gives him constitutional rights. That's how it works. I'm sorry, Stephen, but that's how it works. You should know that. As for the DOJ saboteur who introduced the admission of error into the record, he said there was a Democrat, this saboteur. They're referring to prosecutor Erez Ruveni, someone who the Trump administration weeks earlier had promoted because of his good work in the Trump administration. He'd literally just been promoted by the DOJ, but he didn't want to lie in court And so now they sacked him as a result of that. And by the way, what Steve Miller doesn't note is that Ruveny was not the only person who said that was an error in the court proceedings. ICE official Robert Cerner also said it was an error and an oversight in his sworn testimony. And Solicitor General John Sauer also said it was an error. So Miller's full of shit. Let's go on.
Some have said, well, but he had a thing called a withholding order. So a withholding order means you've been ordered deported, but an immigration judge is saying you cannot go back to a particular country. Here's the thing. If you are a member of a foreign terrorist organization, you cannot have a withholding order. Since he's in MS-13, there is no withholding order. Furthermore, the gang that he is accused of being persecuted by doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. The 18th Street gang is gone.
That's a point I made before. They're not gone, but they're a shadow of what they were. I agree with Miller on that point. I don't know how that makes me feel, but got to be honest. I do agree with him on that point. I also, by the way, Steve, see, look, I'm not biased against you. I also agree the withholding order should be revoked. See, look, we can come together. We can come together. But what you do then, Steve, here's how the law works. You go to court and you get the order revoked. That's how it works. It's a very simple process. It would be revoked. You do the same thing. If your position is he's in MS-13 and that's now considered a terrorist organisation. I don't think he is in MS-13, but if he is, you use that information to go to a court and get the order revoked. That's how the rule of law works. You don't take it into your own hands. But they didn't do that because these guys think they are above the law and they just do whatever the hell they want. That, as I keep saying on this podcast, is dictatorship. Then we come to our gripping conclusion.
So you have an illegal alien from El Salvador. Bill, where are we supposed to send the illegal alien from El Salvador?
You haven't even allowed me to ask you a question.
I love that so much. The only thing that stops him down for like 1.5 seconds max is the guy going, "You haven't even let me ask a question." And Steve Miller takes a breath, and that is how it ended. What a noxious man.